Alright, we are back again with a 17-inch MHZ hydro. So I've got the rear strut mounted, and I just did it. I haven't even put any nuts on the back side. And I'm not really sure if I'm too deep or if I should. This is what, my brain tells me. My brain tells me if it's going to ride on the rear like that, I would want the strut to be right smack dab in the middle of the rudder. Now, I may be wrong. If it's going to ride on the water, that puts the, bottom 2/3 of the prop in the water, possibly the top 1/3 of the prop catching air. Not sure if that's good or not, but that's seemingly the best place to put it based off how much area we have on the back of the transom here. But what we can do, if we want, we got that angled little mountain bracket. We could flip it if we wanted to raise it. But for right now, that's what I'm going to do. Don't know if I'm right. Don't know if I'm wrong. Now, another thing I don't know if I'm right or wrong about, and I couldn't really tell this from Dr. Jet's videos, which I felt like he had his stinger offset. And there's a reason why, or the strut. There's a reason why. So if we flip this over, I didn't notice this. This side's wider than this side by a considerable amount. Like if we sit here and measure this, one side is 31 millimeters. We got 31 millimeters on that side, and we got 25 millimeters on that side, which is kind of crazy. So you would think if it's going to always turn right, we've got more space on the right hand side. I don't know if you move the strut to the right to compensate. I just don't know. I put it in the middle, but I put it in the middle, and then after I did that, I flipped the boat over, and I noticed that one side was bigger opening than the other. I would have never guessed that in a million years, And my motor is actually over to the right a little, which would have compensated for that beautifully. But too late now, I've already drilled the holes. So, secondly is I've went literally back and forth, left and right, trying to figure out which side of the rudder to put the rudder on, I'm really thinking about putting it over here just because I feel like that's probably a pretty good distance away, and it'll get me away from that. But everything always, has always seemed to go on the right side of the boat. And I guess this is one of those things where it doesn't really matter. The boat's too small. It's not like it's going to be that big of a deal. But I just don't know. Watch Big B put his on the left, and then I saw, I think Dr. Jet's is also on the left. So I just don't know. I think that's what I'm going to do. I really thought about it this morning, and I was like, I'll just flip the bracket, and I'll flip this and flip that, and then, we'll rock with it that way. But I really like it on the left-hand side of the boat, and if it's going to help the turning aspect of it, turning to the right, keep the rudder on the left, have a front turn fin on the right, that kind of makes sense to me. It does. It kind of makes sense. So I don't know. Let me look at this. Good golly. Sure isn't a lot of room there, is it? Huh. Now I really got to be thinking. Because I don't know. No. Okay. We got to look at this from a different perspective. Because the arm, look at the arm. So the arm is right in line with the mounting bracket. It doesn't come out far enough. So we're going to either have to move the arm or move the mounting bracket. That's, regardless, one of those is going to have to happen. So, if we do it that way, I have to flip the mounting bracket, which moves the rudder there. We do it this way. I don't want the rudder to actually hit the sponson. Okay, I think we'll be alright. But it wouldn't, because you'd have to flip the bracket. Okay, what I'm going to do is flip the bracket, and then we'll start, because regardless, the bracket's on backwards, or either the arm is. So I got to formulate a game plan. So once I figure it out, I'll show you. Okay, so I flipped the bracket, and if you look, I went ahead and rounded it over, polished it up, to where it'll fit up in that corner a little bit better. Right? So check out this piece of shit. Look at the intake. Look at it. It's completely plugged, dude. That is not an illusion. That shit is plugged. Now I've got to figure out how to get that shit out of there and open this up. That's so frustrating. You can tell there's a small little tiny hole. I might be able to pry that out, but I literally just noticed it when I flipped it. I'm like, oh my God. They didn't even clean this. It went. I guess it slipped through R&D. That's terrible. All right. Well, I got the rudder all done. Looks like I got it all cleaned out too. Let's see if I can get it to focus. There. But I was able to get it cleaned out. There was a big burr on the front, and then there was actually one inside of there. And what did I use? I used this. This right here is a unique tool. It is like a pimple popper. This is something that came in one of those facial kits for like popping pimples and then fingernail stuff and whatnot. So that's what this little needle point is, and then what these are for are like blackheads or some shit. But it works really good as like a pick. So I was able to get in there and move that thing around, and but that's what I use it for. I use it for a really fine point pick, and I kind of use it for a punch. Oh boy, it's late here, guys. It's like 11:30. Shouldn't even be working on this shit, but I am, because if I don't, it'll never get done. And I was thinking about formulating a different game plan rather than this being my water intake. I think what we'll do is we'll come out of the rudder, we'll come in and go in the hole somewhere, and then we'll go into the ESC, and they'll go out of the ESC through the motor, out the motor, and then boom, out the side. That's what I think we're going to do. That way the ESC will get the cooling first, because it's just a straight pass through, so it probably needs the most anyways, but that's just my thought process as of right now. Next thing I got to do is quit fucking yawning and work on the stuffing tube. So I've got to figure out exactly where I'm going to come through the hole, which is probably going to be somewhere about right here. And I'm not going to have much of the stuffing tube showing. Based on the angle of the motor, I'm probably only going to have about maybe that much protruding through that we're visibly going to be able to see. So, wish me luck. So I got the hole drilled in the bottom. Here's a stuffing tube and the same size drill bit that we're going to use. And I tried to basically just use my cooling line as kind of a guide. I put it in front of it to try to figure out the angle, if that makes any sense, as to where it needs to come out, because I don't have any really short 130 cable I could put in there and see where it touches. So at this point I'm kind of eyeballing it and guesstimating it, but regardless, we're going to create a hole in the bottom of the boat. So wish me luck. Well, that didn't turn out too bad. I got a nice little angle on it. It's kind of like right dead nuts in line with it. So I'm kind of happy about that. And under here it turned out pretty good too. See if it'll focus on it. Yep. So what I'm going to do now is, I've got this. Now if anybody has a Dremel, they sell these carbide rasp tips like this. I absolutely love this. This is like my #1 favorite go-to tool tip for my Dremel. It's quite expensive. I think it's like 19 bucks. But I have literally done so much with this. I've got dozens of other tips, but this one is my go-to. Now, this is like my second go-to if I want to do like a pilot tip or something like that, where, you know, you can't use a punch on fiberglass, but you can use something like this to where you can actually hit the center of something. I guess you know, do it like so. So then you could create the center, and then you can switch over to your drill bit, and you know you've hit center. So I'm gonna go ahead and switch this over into my little pencil Dremel, and gonna start the process of bending the stuffing tube. I'll try to get as close of an angle as I can with this thing. I'm going to try to rest it. If I can rest the rubber piece on the hull, that'll give me a really good angle. Cool. Not bad. Once we're all done, mix up some epoxy. It'll fill that in nice and smooth. Got a little bit of a raised edge right there from the drill bit, but looking good so far. Alright, so we got that all done, and luckily we got the stuffing tube all bent. I had one little kinky spot right there, but I don't think it's enough to make any difference. I had to end up heating it up, put a drill bit in the end of it, and I bent it over my drill. It's the only thing I could get to conform it to that weird angle. So now all I got to do is cut it the right length and glue it in. Alright, it is now the next day, and we've got this thing looking good. Oh, I'm very, very happy with how good it turned out. You can see right there. Let's see if we can zoom in on that. I mixed a little bit of Cabosil with that to try to get some white. You can see my Cabosil right here, but it gave me a little bit. I was afraid of doing too much and like losing some sort of like integrity or flexibility of the 30-minute epoxy. But let's try to see if we can look at the hull as far as like a streamline effect. Let's do level sponsons right there. So the stuffing tube does sit a little bit below the bottom of the hull, but I guess it kind of has to. That's about as good as I can get it. And then let's go ahead and flip it over. We see here. Here we go. Looking nice. Like I said, we weren't gonna have much. We weren't gonna have much to work with. You can see right there how like the end of the stuffing tube is kind of rough. That was when I first initially tried to bend it. It bent and kinked in half, which luckily I was still able to save it because I kinked this much. You see how it kinked, and then I still had to cut some more off of it. So we're just going to let that set up for the rest of the day, and then we will move on to the next process. One thing I noticed with their get up here, so their 130 cable, unfortunately, doesn't fit through the 1/4-inch drive, which kind of hurts my feelings, honestly. Every time I'm gonna have to grease this thing, I'm gonna have to loosen this and pivot this out in order to pull the cable out. It's just frustrating. So don't really know what I'm gonna do. I did order this cable here. So this is an 1/8-inch cable with an 1/8-inch shaft. They showed it as 2 pieces, and I was hoping to manipulate it in such a way where I could actually use it, at least use the end piece, but I can't. So I don't know if there's a way that I can get a liner that will fit this cable, but also fit inside that style stuffing tube. So I don't know. If you know about something this small, let me know in the comment section below. This is a really, really tiny cable. I don't think it's going to be strong enough for the motor that I've got on this thing. But I've got this little tiny 1/8-inch cable, I've got this 130 cable, and I've got this 130 cable. And in order to use this cable here, we would have to use a different flex shaft. So the square-ended one here is actually the one that came with the boat, and this has got a little square end. And I guess you would JB weld that in there. Maybe you don't. Maybe you don't JB weld it in there so you can actually take the damn thing apart. Who knows? Who knows? Haven't gotten that far. And then the other 130 cable, this is the end for this. You would JB weld it or solder it in there. But this has a 3/16 inch, shaft for the bushings to ride on. And what I thought about doing, I thought about seeing if I can put this in my little Harbor Freight lathe and actually cut it down. But I don't know if there's going to be any meat left for it for me to do that. So I don't know. But we've gotten all this done. So I'm going to go ahead and end the video here. And then I will pick back up on part 3 when we start the process of mounting the rudder making sure the running gear works, and getting it all set up with a battery. And then we will start the process of painting it. So we're gonna do a red, white, and blue theme. Everything is, you know, we got Daredevil. I've got some Punisher decals coming for the catamaran. So we're gonna do some Marvel themed stuff here. So I'm thinking about maybe like a little Captain America boat, something like that. I really thought about doing like a flag, like the back corner here, do it in blue with some white star decals, and then peel the decals off so the white stars will show. And then we can do red stripes on the boat, kind of like American flag. And then we can put like a little Captain America decal on here or something like that. Just my thoughts. So let me know in the comment section below what you think, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace.